One moment, one violent, unforgiving decision. And suddenly, the bright future of the Bloods was stained not just with mud and fear, but with the memory of a defeat that was as brutal as it was heartbreaking. This is the story of the bloke who wore that pain and still sung the loudest. G'day Swans fans, and welcome back to Swans Daily News. If you bleed red and white and you live for the drama and the emotion of this club, then hit that subscribe button right now. We need you with us for this one. Because today we're not talking about a trade rumour, we're talking about the soul of the club. When the Swans announced their team of the century back in 2003, it was meant to be a celebration, a night of reverence. But when Billy Williams' name was read out, the quiet honour exploded into pure, raw emotion. The man who had worn the red and white in the darkest, hardest years of the club, this genuine legend, he didn't just walk up. He burst into an impromptu, emotional rendition of "Cheer, Cheer, the Red and the White." It was more than a song. It was a confession of love, a defiant echo across the decades. Why did it hit us so hard? Because for all his on-field brilliance, 3-time best and fairest, 2-time leading goal kicker, 9 times representing Victoria, Williams' career is framed by one horrific moment of violence and betrayal. A moment that defined the bloodbath grand final of 1945. He was a kid from the docks, a devoted son who defied his old man just to pull on the jumper. He carried the bags of his idols only to have one of them try to take his head off on the biggest stage. This story isn't just history, it's the ticker that beats under the modern Swans jersey. But to truly understand the weight of that 2003 song, we need to go back to the desperate days of the post-war South Melbourne club. Billy Williams grew up in Newport, what he called a stevedore suburb, a place where you worked hard or you went without. His old man literally captained the ferry across the Yarra, carting passengers to their hard graft. And in an act of classic headstrong footy passion, his dad hated the game and forbade him to play. Williams used to sneak out, play for Spotswood alongside future Brownlow winner Bill Hutchison and Footscray Premiership captain Charlie Sutton. The irony is absolutely heartbreaking. He was a massive Carlton supporter as a kid. He'd wait for the Blues players, carry their kit bags, just to get a "thanks, Billy" from his heroes. Imagine the pure, unadulterated joy of the young bloke who worshipped the Navy Blues, only to be zoned to the South Melbourne Bloods. When he first ran out for training in 1945, he was surrounded by legends: Nash, Cleary, Matthews, Graham. He said, "I felt very lucky to get my chance. This wasn't professional sport. These blokes were mechanics, wharfies, labourers working 45-hour weeks, and their physical fitness was born of grit, not gym programs. They were tough. They were united. They were the Bloods." They finished 1945 on top of the ladder. They were red-hot favourites heading into the grand final against Williams' childhood idols, Carlton. The Swans, led by the incomparable Herbie J. Matthews, were a skilled side. The opposition's plan neutralised that talent with pure, unadulterated violence. It was a different era, a different code of battle. But no one, not the players, not the officials, and certainly not the young Billy Williams, was prepared for the nightmare that was about to unfold. What happened on that day, in front of the largest crowd in VFL history, went beyond a game of footy. It was a tragedy that would scar the club for decades. The game is known simply, chillingly, as the bloodbath. In the first quarter, a 19-year-old Williams, skinny, full of promise, received a devastating, deliberate elbow. From whom? From the Carlton tough nut he used to carry the kit bag for, Bob Chitty. And then it happened. Chitty absolutely cleaned him up, knocked him out cold. The boy who carried his hero's uniform was brutally discarded by that very hero. Chitty would later be suspended for 8 weeks. It was an act of pure malice. Could anyone have stopped it? Maybe not the young Williams, who was just trying to play the game he loved.
Williams and young star Ron Clegg were both carted off the ground by half-time. The match devolved into open warfare. Fights erupted, not just on the field, but in the stands. Post-war frustrations boiling over, mixed with scandalous allegations of betting irregularities. Hostility poured down from the terraces onto the field. Carlton won by 28 points. Here's the most tragic detail. Williams said this years later. That was Chitty's last season. He would have died without knowing that the guy he cleaned up was the same kid who always carried his bag. I wish I'd mentioned it. Unbelievable. The pain of being struck down wasn't just physical, it was the complete stunning betrayal by a childhood idol. That moment, that single elbow, became the heartbreaking symbol of a club that had its dream violently ripped away. It was the moment everything changed for young Billy Williams, setting him on a path of both brilliant triumph and quiet resentment. Despite the crushing weight of that loss, Williams immediately demonstrated the ticker he was famous for. He won the club's best first-year player. The very next year, 1946, he won the best and fairest. He won it again in 1947 and a third time in 1950. This scrawny, determined kid from the docks was an absolute ripper of a player. He was a star on the rise during a time of immense pressure and internal club struggles. The Swans simply could not recover the form of 45. But behind closed doors, you could see the emotional toll. In 1951, he was promised the vice-captaincy. When he found out it had been given to the returning Ron Clegg instead, he said, "That's the lot." He refused to train or play the first 2 games. The record says he and the club resolved their differences, but the truth is, a man who'd given his heart and body to the club, even risking his relationship with his father, felt betrayed again. The newspaper, The Record, summed up the man's spirit when they celebrated his 1950 B&F, saying his courage, tenacity and indomitable spirit were a reward for a season where he frequently received little help from his teammates. That tells you everything you need to know about the atmosphere around the club at the time. A brilliant player battling through inconsistency, keeping the club afloat almost single-handedly. Williams had to leave the Bloods in 1952 at only 26 for a more lucrative captain-coach gig at Williamstown. He had a young family to feed. But the ultimate tragedy isn't that he left, it's that a player of his calibre, with his 3 best and fairest, only played 124 games. He was gone too soon. But here's the part that truly changes everything about this story. This reminds me of when Paul Kelly famously refused to let the club sink, holding the line through years of pain. It's the same fierce, loyal spirit. Because even after he left, even after the bloodbath, even after the club politics, Williams never truly abandoned the Bloods. When he opened his Port Melbourne fish and chip shop, the queue was out the door. Why? Because the loyal Swans community, Smokey Clegg, Bobby Skilton Sr., Laurie Nash, they all showed up. They showed up at his pub, the Morning Star, every single week. Williams left the club, but he never left the community. He never stopped being a Swan. Billy Williams passed away in 2016 at the age of 90. He wasn't just a great player, he was the embodiment of the Bloods' resilience. He took the hardest punch the game could throw, a blow that was meant to crush him, and he came back 3 times better. He copped the internal politics and the broken promises. And yet, decades later, when his name was called out, he didn't just accept the honour, he stood up and belted out the club song. At the end of the day, this is what being a Swans fan is all about. It's the unbreakable bond forged in the darkest, most difficult times. It's taking the pain and turning it into a song. Let me know in the comments what you reckon. Which Swans legend embodies the Blood spirit most for you? Hit like if you're backing the Swans no matter what, and I'll see you in the next one.